I am Dennis Wirth of Funny Like a Clown podcast in a hotter than hell Sunday here in G Vegas, little town outside of Boston. I mean, we're hitting 108, baby, and we don't see 108 around here. That's desert weather, but it is Funny Like a Clown podcast, episode 33, July 21st, 2019. As always, Funny Like a Clown is brought to you by G Vegas Buffalo Sauce for the spicy, sweet, savory taste at game time. There is only one G Vegas, and today we're going to be discussing comedian Jim Breuer, which I'm a bigger fan of his now that I've reviewed him to do his stuff, but I don't do that alone. On the phone to help me discuss him, we have comedian Brian Pellicano. Welcome to the show, Brian.
Thank you for having me, Dennis.
How you holding up in the heat?
Well, I'm down south. I'm actually on my way back up. I'm in Virginia right now.
Oh.
So it's actually cooler down here than it is up north.
Oh, well, good for you. You don't want to be up here. You'd be melting, man, that's for sure. But what makes you such a fan of Jim Breuer?
Well, first off, just as a comedian, you have to respect him just because, he kind of was, pigeonholed into becoming a comedian. When you look like you're stoned all the time, you kind of don't have much to do.
Only so many jobs that'll take you, right?
Yeah, really. I mean, you can't really be a cop or a judge,
Okay. But, say, out of all his body of work, and I mean, he's done quite a bit, here, but do you have a favorite memory he has, a favorite routine, or a favorite party he's played or anything?
Well, I've got two favorite routines of his. One is the AC/DC musical routine.
Right. What's
and
the other one?
And the other is the alcohol party scene.
Right, those are the two he's probably most known for, right? Those were all over the internet. I think everybody saw those, but that kind of drew me in. But in reviewing him, I mean, he's done quite a bit more than just those routines, if you really look into this guy. Let's see. He started out a stand-up actor, musician, and a radio host. He was a member of Saturday Night Live from 1995 to 1998. Do you remember on Saturday Night Live?
Oh, yeah, Goat Boy.
He did Goat Boy, and he did, he hosted a fictional MTV show, Remember the 80s, and he did Goth Talk also. I mean, those are the ones, his characters from the Saturday Night class. After that, he starred in the film Half Baked. Did you see the film Half Baked?
Yeah, that's actually, I had heard of him before that, but that's when he really started to blow up, I think.
All right, now I didn't see the film. What was the film about, Half Baked?
Pretty much about being half-baked and not all the way baked the whole time. It was basically, their buddy had fed a cop horse on the side of the road in New York City a bunch of munchies and killed the horse, so he's going up on trial for killing a cop, basically. So they had to raise money to get him out of jail. So they started selling weed, and basically, that's the premise of the comedy.
So it was about pot, which is legal now, which people can do in small amounts here in Massachusetts. But following Colorado, I think sooner or later it'll be a nationwide thing. But for now, there's a few states doing it. So let's see. He started out at a little-known club, Uptown Comedy Club, doing weekly TV shows in Harlem, New York, and it was a little-known TV show. And as we said, from there he went on to Saturday Night Live. And what do you remember about Goat Boy the most?
Well, one of the things about Jim Breuer is, so I envy the comedians who can do voices and do that sketch comedy. I can't really do it.
Right.
I don't know if it's my ADD. So about Goat Boy, his pizzazz when he did it, he's just so got into that character and really looked and sounded like a goat.
Right. I thought it was funny. He said he'd be like walking on the street and people like come up to him like, how you doing? Acting like a goat and be like, I'm doing good. And people that didn't know the routine are looking at him like, what the hell are these guys freaking doing? Like, if you didn't know Goat Boy. But that's the funniest stuff to me is the offstage stuff where it cracks you up. But all right, let's see. Go ahead. What were you gonna say? Are you still with us? Hello? Did we lose Brian? You there, Brian?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, we lost you for a second. You had me nervous.
Sorry about that.
Oh, all right, you're back now. What were you going to say about? We were talking about Goat Boy.
Oh, I just saw an interview with him, and he says he'll be in the airport, and people will actually just bow at him,
Yeah.
as he's walking by, kind of like you said. And people are like, "What the hell?"
Well, if you knew the routine, it was funny. If you didn't, you wonder what the hell was going on. But let's see, he guest starred in Home Improvement. Did you know that?
No, I didn't.
He was a guest star in Home Improvement. He did one episode, and that actually gave way to a short-lived sitcom called Buddies, which I imagine you probably never saw Buddies, because if it's short-lived sitcom, nobody's seen it. That's why it was short-lived, right?
Yeah, I never heard of Buddy.
Yeah, he was supposed to appear with a then friend Dave Chappelle. It was supposed to be him and Dave Chappelle, but they pulled him after the pilot. He did the pilot with Dave Chappelle, and I think Dave went on to do it, but they pulled him. Can you imagine being that close to success, being in like a big pilot for a big thing, and then getting pulled for someone else after the pilot?
Especially with like Dave Chappelle, that's the story of my life. I usually almost get there.
You almost, and they pull the rug out at the last second. But no, I had earlier on Funny Like a Clown podcast, I had actor Sandy Helberg on, and he said in the pilot for The Love Boat, he was the one who played Gopher, not Fred, whatever his name, right? Yeah, and it's like they pulled him after the pilot, and the guy we all know is Gopher. He went on to be the Gopher on The Love Boat, but Sandy Helberg was the original who got pulled. And I remember A-Team. Obviously, the A-Team in the '80s. Yeah, there was another guy who played Face. The guy who played Face in the pilot, it wasn't him. But he got the role after the pilot. So you must have nightmares about that stuff if you're that close to success like that and get pulled.
Well, I think I'd rather be that close to success than turning down a job that ends up really good. Like,
yeah, that's true. I mean, yeah, you always have that to your name. You can say, "I was the guy before him. It could have been me," but
yeah, I could have been somebody.
Who knew? But well, as you said, he did impressions on Saturday Night Live. He did one impression of Joe Pesci, where Colin Quinn, he did Robert De Niro, and they used to do skits together as Joe Pesci and Robert De Niro. Then on one time in 1997, both the actual De Niro and Pesci made a guest appearance when they were doing the skits about him, and they went on to confront him on the episode. Could you imagine doing a skit about somebody famous and having them show up behind you?
I couldn't even believe it. Like I said, I would kill to do voices anyways, so to be able to actually have that happen would just be jaw-dropping.
Take a special talent, then. I mean, have you ever had a brush with stardom? Have you been on a comedy show where a big name showed up, or you happen to bump into one or anything?
Lenny Clark in Boston.
There you go, Lenny.
And then when I was in Boston a lot with James Lever, we used to be right outside the Fleet Center. About once a month we'd roll through there. And the Bruins would come over a lot after the games and check us out.
The legend Lenny Clark. I did a show with him, and I thought he just, that's touching greatness. When you get to work with somebody like Lenny, man, you've touched one of the greats. They're in a class of their own.
I would love to work with Lenny one day. Just be in Boston folklore,
Sure. All right, let's see. In 1998, Jim Breuer had a show on MTV. He had the Jim Breuer Show, it was called. He hosted a few premium blends on Comedy Central. Then he hosted VH1's Web Junk 20 in the third season. He replaced Patrice O'Neill on that. And I think this is where I mean, those were all small things. I mean, they'd be big for us, but I mean, compared to what he went on to do, they were small things for him at the time. But then he went on to do his first 1-hour comedy special on Comedy Central in 2002, and I think that's where it really hit mainstream for him, was then.
Oh, it blew up after that.
Right. It was called Hardcore. That was what the name of the special on 2002 comedy special. That same year, he released an album called Smoke and Brew. And then, I mean, those were the routines, like you said, that we all remembered him for on Facebook and stuff. Everybody was sharing them up. But then, in 2009, he did his second comedy special, Let's Clear the Air. And it went down as one of Comedy Central's highest-rated specials ever. Can you imagine, with all the big names Comedy Central has had, can you imagine Jim Breuer being one of their top of all time?
And well, yeah, I could actually, because, like I said, I'm kind of a big fan of his, and I love his work. So, and he seems to be able to connect on multiple levels with so many different age groups, So I think that's probably why, he was one of the biggest.
Sure. I mean, you're putting him in there. I mean, the people who've done Comedy Central, the biggest names of the biggest names, and he's right there with them. So that's an impressive
Right.
career. Yeah. Let's see. He went on to do some Pizza Hut commercials. In 2016, he became a regular on Kevin Hart's Can't Wait as Father
Yeah.
Philip. Now, have you seen that? Have you seen the Kevin Hart show?
I've only seen the advertisements.
Now, is he a priest or something? The way they call him Father Philip, or is that just a name they give him?
Yeah. Yeah, I believe he is.
Okay. That's on CBS, but if you're working with Kevin Hart, I mean, that's the top of the top right there.
Yeah, yeah.
Let's see. Then he had a radio career, which I didn't know about. He started in as a sit-in comedian on the Opie and Anthony show.
Yep. Back when Opie and Anthony was in New York, though, not in Boston.
Right. I mean, they were Boston guys originally. They went to New York, and then when Howard Stern went over to satellite radio, I think they took over his morning slot, didn't they?
I believe so.
Where
yeah.
Howard Stern used to be, yeah. So I mean, these are his, biggest radio shows, second only to Stern at the time. And this guy's, sitting in with him. So,
Right.
that led he hosted his own show Fridays with Jim Breuer on Sirius Satellite Radio. Have you ever heard any of that? I don't have satellite radio myself, but
Yeah, I've heard him on that. I had a free sample for satellite radio, and that was actually one of the only things I listened to.
yeah, I had it for a bit. It was more confusing me than anything, but I tried to listen to Stern, but it was all past episodes. I'm like, well, I'm paying for this, listen to the past. Oh, I couldn't figure out how to get now, but that's another show. But he went on to tour over 20 colleges and comedy clubs in 2008 across the country, and he used footage from those for the documentary More of Me and a 4-hour DVD, The Road Journals. Have you ever seen any of those?
No, I've never even heard of him. I'm going to have to find that now.
Yeah, I always think that's cool when you can see behind the scenes what goes on. No, nobody realizes, everybody thinks it's just getting up there and making people laugh, and I try to tell people there's so much more to being a comedian. That's the fun part, getting up there and making them laugh, but so much work goes into getting to that point, they don't realize it,
Right, exactly.
So, to see behind the scenes footage like that, people actually get to see what it actually takes. There's a business side, a political side. I mean, there's so much going on,
Yeah, and especially now with the political side, you got to walk on broken glass no matter what side of the fence you're on.
Well, what have you ever dealt with? I mean, give an instance. Have you ever dealt with the political side of comedy? What have you ever dealt with?
Well, so I actually took time off just because of my form of comedy with the way the environment is now in the political scene. But I usually try to stay away from the political side just because, you can really separate a room.
Yeah, I mean, no matter what side you take, you're alienating half of your audience because half is Democrat, half is Republican. So if you're choosing a side, you're losing half your audience right there.
Right. I mean, I do a bit about Bill Clinton, but it's not the political side of Bill Clinton. It's Bill Clinton if he was a priest. So it's a little bit different.
But do you think we're living in a day and age where it's tougher to be a comedian because just everybody's being offended by everything? Is that hurting comedy a lot, you think?
Oh, 100%.
I know some headliners who they've quit comedy because they were so sick of dealing with it because people are getting up and walking out of rooms because they're getting offended and people don't want to book you if people are getting up and walking out. It's like, my opinion is, why you at a comedy club if you can't take a joke? But not everybody can take a joke like us.
That's exactly what I'm saying. You go to a comedy show, take the joke. We're there to make people laugh, so it's just a joke,
Yeah, I know. They're saying comedy's going to become a thing of the past, because everybody's getting so offended by everything. And in the '80s, we talked about people's mothers and we laugh about it. We didn't take nothing serious.
I mean, you could pretty much say anything back in the '80s because everyone had a sense of humor. Now everyone's so uptight, and everyone's offended by everything. People are offended if your grass is nice. People are offended if your grass isn't nice. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Everybody's gonna. But a lot of them too. They try to. I notice. I mean, I've been. For a local guy, I've been somewhat successful, but I notice a lot of comics who can't hack it in the business. They try to attack me, figuring they're gonna find some fame by getting their name notarized by attacking a comic who can hack it. I've been dealing with that lately, and that's pretty tough to deal with.
Yeah, that's crazy. I've been seeing that, especially you're somebody who takes a lot of younger guys brings them up, teaches them the ropes. You know, I just don't understand why people are giving you crap.
Yeah, I mean, there were veteran comics. You know, I was smart enough when I started. I listened to the veteran comics. I watched, I learned, and I waited my time. But these young kids, they don't want to wait their time. They want, I'm headlining tomorrow, you know. I started comedy today. What's You're not going to put me on the headline tomorrow? What's wrong with you? They don't get that ain't how it works, but
it's the younger generation. They want to graduate college and be the boss.
Yeah, what do they call them? Millennials now? What do they think they're entitled to? So used to be please and thank you. Now it's you owe me and I'm entitled. Is pretty much how it goes down. But all right, let's get back to Jim Breuer here. How about? All right, I'm going to say some discography, and you just give me your thoughts on some of these albums he's put out. Okay, Thrash, Raising Teenage Girls, Old School, Be a Dick Tonight, My Rock and Roll Dream, Mr. Rock and Roll, Who's Better Than Us, Family Warrior, Sugar Rush, Wannabe, and The Unexplained. I mean, that's how many albums this guy's got out. I mean, have you ever heard any of those? Or?
Yeah, I heard Raising Teenage Girls. I actually listened to it on I had found it on YouTube, I believe, which is, you know, considering most of my act is about raising teenage girls, you know, I connected well with it. You
could relate to it, right? Yeah. But, I mean, gosh, I mean, I know it's his full-time job that he does comedy now, so, I mean, he's putting out that one, but I've been in comedy now going on 12 years, and I just now finished my first DVD and CD that I'm putting out, and it took me how long for one? I could only imagine that, but this guy's got like 11 or 12. That's just an amazing amount of work right there for, you know, considering he hasn't been on it, like, you know, as long as the Carlins and Pryors and stuff. That's an amazing amount of work that he's already put out.
Yeah, people don't realize that, you know, people just think you go and do the DVD or the CD, and, you know, they think it only takes an hour to film it or what have you. No, you know, just because it's an hour long, it takes days.
It takes a whole lot longer to put it. There's editing that goes on, and it just, there's a lot behind the scenes. All right, we have a section of the show where we talk about some fan questions, so I'm going to give you the fan questions, and you just tell me what you remember about them, okay?
Okay, sounds good.
All right, Bill Saulnier writes in AC/DC and Jack Nicholson.
AC/DC and Jack Nicholson. Well, I know the AC/DC part, you know, I just think he's absolutely, like I said, that's one of my favorite skits.
Well, that was, he did what? The AC/DC could make the Hokey Pokey sound good, and he's up there singing the Hokey Pokey like AC/DC would?
Yeah, exactly.
You're doing the Hokey Pokey! Yeah, he really got into it, but...
Yeah, it's crazy. It's just, you know, because, as you know, most comedians secretly want to be rock stars anyway.
Of course they do. That's how that's the other way around, you know. But, what, did he do an impression of Jack Nicholson or something? I mean, that was the other part of his question was...
Yeah, he does a Jack Nicholson, and it's pretty damn good. I'm trying to think of what exactly he said or did with it, but I almost want to think he does like phone calls with it, if I'm not mistaken. Okay. And I could be wrong on that.
That's kind of an overdone one. I think Jack Nicholson and Arnold Schwarzenegger, like everybody's done them. It's enough. We need something new at this point, but their voices are so distinct. How do you not do them? You know?
Yeah.
All right. Let's see. Chris Barrows writes in The Party in the Stomach.
The party in the stomach. My favorite part, being that I love tequila, is when tequila arrives.
That's right. What's that? The party starts out with beer, then the Scotch shows up, the Irish, and he was going like, then tequila shows up. No, you guys, you tore up the place. I'm not letting you. No, we're not going to start any trouble, man. Finally, there's so many different boozes. The stomach says, all right, everybody out. That's why you're throwing up. So.
Yeah, the stomach's the bouncer.
There you go, the bouncer. That was the first one I actually seen of him that got me interested in his work that I ever seen. But let's see. Jem Moore writes in, definitely his killer dog speech from Half Baked. I still have it memorized.
I'm sorry, Dennis. The killer what speech?
His killer dog speech.
Oh.
You remember that one? I don't know that one. Tell us about it.
So I'm trying to think. The killer dog speech. I believe it. The dog killer. They basically, you know, they were all smoking, getting high, and he basically just told this fantasy story about this dog. You know, the dog they had in the, you know, the apartment with them, and you know, it just kind of snowballed from there. I don't quite. It's been a while since I've seen that movie, so I don't quite remember exactly what he was saying. I know at one point the dog was like flying around. I'm not sure if that was the same scene or not.
Okay, so it was about to kill a dog, and they were stoned about it, talking about it, pretty much.
Yeah.
All right, now everybody's seeing
the dog wasn't a killer.
Right, the party in the stomach. Everybody's seen the AC/DC hokey poke. Everybody's seen, but now I went to watch those just to refresh myself for this interview with you, and there was one at the top of YouTube's list, and it said the Sears Department at New York. And usually they put the more popular ones up at the top, and I watched this, and I was in frickin' tears about a half hour ago listening to the story. Have you heard the Sears Department story?
No, I haven't. Now I'm gonna have to YouTube it.
He said when he was back in the 80s, he worked at Sears, and it was the 80s when we had the trouble with Gaddafi. So he got bored, and he called up one of his coworkers over in paint, and he was talking like Muammar Gaddafi, saying he was going to send 7 missiles over and bomb the place. And he's going, long live paint, and he hung up. So he said all of a sudden,
I do know that one now.
I was in tears listening to the story.
It was fantastic. Did they end up like clearing out
Yeah, he said he was walking around and nobody was there. All of a sudden there's this federal, we got one more, come on buddy, we got to get you out of here. He's like, what's going on? Somebody had a bomb threat. He said he started to laugh. He's like, what do you mean a bomb threat? And he told him the story. He said he went outside, there were cops everywhere. But he said he told the cops the story and they started laughing. But then he's like, the cops are like, we think it's funny, but this is out of our jurisdiction. The federal marshals are here. And he's like, the federal marshals ain't as funny as your local cop. They don't have a sense of humor. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to ruin it. You got to see it for yourself. But I mean, they say in comedy the real life stuff is so much funnier than anything you can make up. And that being a real story, you can relate to them and laugh. But
100%. The stuff in real life is funnier.
Anything you can make up, possibly. That's one of the rules of comedy. All right, we end off the show with trivia, so I'm going to give you 3 trivia questions about Jim Breuer, and we'll see how you do, okay?
Okay, sounds good.
And I'll say nobody has ever gone 3 for 3 on trivia on Funny Like a Clown podcast. Few have gone 2 for 3. Most go 1 for 3 or 0 for 3, but it gets facts out there you wouldn't know about them, so we don't expect to go good. But if you do get 3 out of 3, we are going to ship you out a bottle of G Vegas Buffalo Sauce, our sponsor. Do you like buffalo sauce?
Oh, I love buffalo sauce.
All right, let's see if we can win you a bottle and go 3 for 3. All right. What band did he host on a VH1 documentary about? Now, when he was on VH1, he did a documentary about a band. What band was it?
I want to say Metallica.
And you'd be right. So you're 1 from 1. Metallica it is. Boom. And that actually led, I didn't know, because he did that on VH1 way back in the day, and in 2018, he was actually the opening act on Metallica's tour. So I guess he must have got to know the guys and stuff, and they really liked him.
Yeah, and they met him from the documentary, actually, and when he did James Hetfield, and he did all the guys, he did all their voices, and that's how he ended up opening for him on tour, I believe.
So you never know what's going to lead to what. See, a VH1 documentary about him led to him opening in Metallica. They're playing arenas, so I mean, that's not a bad one to put on your resume, right? All right, you're 1 for 1. Let's go for number 2. He put out a book. What was the name of his book?
I'm not going to be 2 for 2. I don't know it.
Take a wild guess.
Raising Teenage Girls.
No, the name of the book was I'm Not High. You already hit it with the pot stuff you were talking earlier, but he puts out I'm Not High. But he looks like he's high, doesn't he?
Oh, my God. Yeah. He should just move to Massachusetts so people don't freak out.
All right, that's it. All right, so you're 1 for 2. Here's the tiebreaker, the third trivia question. He actually hosts his own podcast, just like Funny Like a Clown podcast. What is the name of his podcast?
Oh, crap, I do know that.
Dun, 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 dun. What's the name?
I don't have it. It's on the tip of my tongue.
It's one of those, if you weren't put on the spot, you'd know it, but on the spot, you can't come up with it. But it was called The Podcast Masters.
Yes.
And you got to be a master to put out a podcast. I'm finding out it's a lot of work and it's a lot of fun. But did you have fun, Brian?
Oh, I had a blast, Dennis. Anything I did with you was always fun.
Always fun when you're talking about one of the comedians I love to watch. All right, so I want to thank you for being on Funny Like a Clown podcast. But before you go, if there's some listeners out there that haven't heard Jim Breuer, what would you want them to know about Jim Breuer?
You definitely, now that you mention it, they've got to look up the Sears bit. That is probably one of his funniest bits, and I kind of forgot about it till you mentioned it.
Right.
But anything about Jim Breuer, by far one of the most funniest and broad-range comedians that I've seen ever.
All right, so check him out. All right, thanks again for being on the show, and I hope to catch you soon on the comedy scene, Brian.
Excellent. Thanks for having me, Dennis.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right, comedian Brian Pellicano on Jim Breuer, and yeah, geez, I mean, if you haven't seen the obvious, the party in the stomach and the AC/DC routine, you got to see those. Those are one he's best known for. But if you want to see one that's hysterical, he's not best known for, check out the Sears story with Muammar Gaddafi, and it had me in tears a half hour ago. You'll listen to me be in tears a half hour from now. As always, thank you for tuning in. Funny Like Clown podcast. It's hot as hell, 108. Get in front of an air conditioner. Stay cool. And remember, laughter is the best medicine. We'll see you on the next episode. Tell your friends, tell your neighbors. Tune us in. We'll see you then. Bye.